This will be a workshop, so I hope you have pen and paper and that everybody is ready to go. So give me a moment. So this is Rebecca, and we're here to heal the mother damage. The damage that was caused because our mother was not nurturing, or sometimes she was downright mean and downright bitchy, and sometimes she was just ignorant. I told the story of my own mother, whom I don't consider her to be bitchy at all or even abusive. What she was absolutely ignorant about things. She was taught that you should spank a child for crying beginning at 5 months old. That's what she was taught. Also, she was so steeped in religion. As a matter of fact, I need to have another class about religious abuse, that she really took that scripture literally, that it's not even correctly translated, but spoil the rod, spare the rod, spoil the child. And she really felt that if she didn't beat us when we did any kind of sin, that we would go to hell and it would be all her fault. So I did tell the story of how I was a pea-tail. I peed in the bed. I wet the bed. I didn't know about the hormone that you secrete at puberty that makes it stop usually, and that some children don't secrete that hormone until puberty. Some, on rare occasions, never do. But my mother thought that I literally just wanted to lay in the bed and pee on myself. Just pee all over myself. And some of my first prayers were, "Oh God, would you please dry up this pee before morning so I don't get a whipping?" And it wasn't until that incident that happened with one of my brothers, bless his little heart, and he must have been in early teenage years. His hormone never kicked in till the day he died. He peed in the bed. He peed on his bride on his wedding night. I mean, that was before they invented the hormone spray that you can get now. But one time my mama said to him, "Now, Stevie, if you don't quit wetting the bed, I'm going to tie a rubber band around your little dallywhacker." That's what they called it back at my house. And that night, he had heard her. He found a rubber band without any of us knowing. He tied it around his little pee-pee. And when my mama went to check on him, she was a good mama. To cover him up in the middle of the night, his little pee-pee was purple and swollen and horrible and could have been needed to be amputated. And a light finally went on that said, "This kid is not peeing in the bed on purpose." And she never gave him another whipping after that. So, before I continue, I would like to do another sound check. If somebody could do *2, and that'll raise your hand and tell me if you can hear me okay or not. Okay, I'm going to go to my friend Lee. Lee, it's good?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Oh, that makes me happy.
Love you.
Okay, I love you too. All right. So, I also, before I continue much further, I want to thank all the folks who made a contribution. I felt like I wanted to teach this class looking right at the water, which I'm doing, and just harnessing that energy of the healing waves rolling in and the pain rolling out. But it was not in my budget at all. And I asked my readers if they would like to contribute, and I'm just so grateful, and all of you on the class can be grateful as well to those, because everything helps energetically. So I do want us to do a little tapping just to get all on the same page. We will be using emotional freedom technique, which is simply tapping on acupressure points. It releases emotions and it's wonderful. There's lots and lots of YouTube videos if for some reason you're not familiar with EFT. But for this class, all you have to do is follow along behind me, beside me. And so just to get balanced, we're going to tap first on the karate chop spot, which is right on the side of the hand, then the top of the head, the beginning of the eyebrow, the side of the eye, underneath the eye, underneath the nose, underneath the lip, on the collarbone, and then underneath the armpit. So I'll tell you every time, even if you're brand new, it doesn't matter. Tap on the side of your hand and repeat after me. Now everyone is on mute, so you can scream and holler out there wherever you are. I ask my energy field to come into balance. Repeat after me. Come into balance. I love and accept myself, even with all these issues. Come into balance. And just take a deep breath in and out. Then go to the very top of your head. Come into balance. Very beginning of your eyebrow. Balance. Side of your eye. Balance. Underneath your eye. Balance. Underneath your nose, balance. Underneath your lip, balance. Collarbone, balance. Underneath your armpit, balance. Just take a deep breath in and out. And let's just send out a line of light from our heart to everyone, whether you're listening to this, reading this, watching this. However it is, there is no time in reality. We are all connected right now because we all desire to heal this issue. And I'd like for you to just call for a clear diamond of clear light to come down over you, to just hold you in loving protection. And so it is. So it is. And I thank all the beings of light who are with us today, assisting us in this healing. So I'd like to read a couple of, well, more than a couple of letters that I received from people willing to volunteer. And everyone will be doing these exercises. You will need pen and paper. But these letters touch my heart so much, just bringing tears, because as I said, I didn't consider that my mother was abusive, even though now if you spanked a 5-month-old baby, you would probably be arrested. But she didn't do it out of meanness. She did it trying to follow those patterns. And I know some of you are probably going to realize she was following the patterns that she had been taught. And then when you add the religious factor, following the patterns and God will punish me if I don't do so and so. And by the way, all of those who think this would be a good class for you, send me an email, because I think freedom from religious persecution in the 21st century would be a great one. So, no real names are used, and as a matter of fact, when you do volunteer, everyone will have a chance to respond to different things. If you do not wish yourself to be recognized, of course, I only use first names anyway, then make up something. When this is transcribed, it will say participant. It won't even say any kind of name. And also, if you speak up, do know that I'm doing this call for the healing of your hearts and the healing of hearts from now on. So be willing to allow that. Okay, now I'm going to read the letter from Mrs. K. I definitely love to volunteer. My mother admitted she beat me as a baby, and I grew up in an abusive household where beatings, spankings, and the use of a switch and/or my father's very large belt were common. I've done years of healing on this, but pain still lingers and I feel damaged for life. My mother had mental problems and tried to commit suicide by slashing her wrist when I was 7 years old and my sister was 3. My father called me into the room to take care of my bleeding mother until the ambulance arrived. The list goes on. And by the way, let me make a suggestion. While you're listening to me read, if you feel like tapping, if it's bringing up anguish for you, tap on some of those acupressure points we mentioned earlier. If you just want to pick one and tap, that would be fine too. So Mrs. K continues. She wrote me another email. As I said in my first email, my mother had mental issues. Guess what? From her very own abusive childhood, which caused her to beat me as a baby. She admitted this to me. I had no conscious knowledge of it. Neither did I. She was sobbing and breaking down as she told me what she'd done. I don't recall details, but what little I recall of my childhood consists of walking on eggshells because of Mama's nerves and getting beatings, and her going completely out of control, hitting my younger sister and me. Some of you really need to be tapping. I'm picking up your vibrations. She used to beat me into closets, and I remember clearly wanting to hit her back. But I couldn't, because honor thy father and thy mother. I was raised extremely Christian, which I abandoned for good in my late 20s. I'm 53 now. My father was my knight in shining armor to save me on weekends when he came home from his week-long trips as a traveling salesman. But he too would beat me, usually with his huge ham-sized hands or his large belt. He was 6'1" and weighed 300 pounds. I've done over 2 decades of healing on this, including extensive EFT and forgiveness techniques such as radical forgiveness, which I highly recommend both of those. But the best I've been able to achieve is neutrality towards my mother. I've never been able to truly feel love towards her, and as she advances in years, she's 76, I find myself wishing I could move out of state So I would have an excuse not to go to the funeral. It sounds a terrible thing to say, and I feel guilty for saying it, but at the same time, I don't want to when that time comes. And she's speaking of the funeral. Yet, I don't hate her either. She and I are on good terms and we get along just fine, though that part of it is complex and more than we can get into here. So my main issue was probably this feeling of being torn. I do care about my mother, yet at the same time I have this ambivalence that makes me feel guilty. I've done so much healing that I'm not sure anymore whether what I feel is neutrality because it's healed, or is it numbness toward what's ever left? I feel guilty that I don't love my mother as everyone expects me to. I do know of her abuses of me that have left me crippled in so many ways due to neurological damage from the infancy beatings. I have extreme sensitivities, including sensory processing disorder, which makes it difficult to function and is getting worse as I get older. I also live in a virtually constant state of fear. The world is unsafe. I'm looking forward to this class, Mrs. K. And those kind of letters are why I'm bringing you this class and this opportunity for healing. So, before I move on with the next letter, would anyone like to make a comment or say anything? Then you can simply do *2 and that'll raise your hand. Or if I'm having any problems with sound, I would just like to send Mrs. K a wave of love and appreciation for allowing her experience to be brought forward. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to move on. Now you might say to yourself, Rebecca, we know you. You're not one that likes to get up into the story. You just like to get on with the healing. And this is true. Yet what I noticed when I was reading these letters is that I resonated myself with similarities, and not just my similarities, but similarities for so many of my clients that I've talked to. So then I'm going to move on with the next letter. Now, what I think is unusual is that the next letter is from a gentleman who is actually married to Mrs. K, so I'll call him Mr. K. And isn't it interesting that both of them had abusive mothers, yet both of them are bonded together, and from what I've just had personal communication, it sounds like they're not only nurturing each other, but it sounds like they're doing a wonderful healing work in this world. And to see folks who have overcome this kind of things and say, yeah, I had all this happen to me, but I'm moving forward. Now that, my friend, that's a light worker. And that's what most of my readers are. You're light workers. Stuff happened to you and you're doing your mission and you still have pain and you just get on with it. So here's a letter from Mr. K. If you still need volunteers, I'd love to volunteer. I know you don't typically get a lot of men on your calls, so I'd be more than willing to participate. And he just tells what a big fan he is. My mother issues can go on forever. However, to keep it short, here's a few examples. My mother harassed me and my now wife for weeks after we informed her that we were getting married, bringing us to tears continuously leading up to the wedding. You know, in one of my letters I said, who's the most powerful person on the earth? This is me speaking, not Mr. K. A mother. She has the power to absolutely crush you or the power to lift you up. That's why I love Divine Mother so much. She's only in the lifting up business. So he continues, Mr. K. She made completely obscene assumptions about my wife and questioned our decision to get married nonstop, including questioning why I was not getting married in a Roman Catholic church, which I've explained for years. I'm not religious, only spiritual. My mother flew across the country to stalk our home, forced me out of my car, and assaulted me because I wanted nothing to do with her. Again, after she would not stop harassing us. Then she had the audacity to ask to just talk without my wife knowing. My mother refuses to be wrong. She always feels she's right, and in her own words she says, even when I'm wrong, I'm right. My mother always said to me, you are a joke. Oh, that hurts me even to read it. For years, not knowing how much damage those words can do. And I just want to stop right there and add some things I've gotten. I can't read every letter, of course, but not just mothers, but parents who say things like, you'll never amount to anything. No one's ever going to want what you have to offer. Or even things like, if you don't lose weight, nobody's ever going to want you. Or if you don't do this, nobody's ever going to want you. It's so damaging. It rings in our head for years to come. And one of the things we're going to do at the end of this class, I want you to get used to the idea of hearing that sweet voice early in the morning instead of this critical voice that's been hammered into your brain. I'm going to continue now with Mr. K's letter. My mother and my father never understood my spirituality or my healing abilities. They even went as far to want me to get an exorcism because I'm a Reiki Master Level 3 practitioner. Because of my want to become a spiritual healer and my parents' contradicting viewpoints, my mother and my father were never proud of me. Those are just a few strong points. Thank you, Mr. K. Now, before I read the next letter, are there any comments or just uplifting words for Mr. K? Anybody would like to say? You can do *2 and that'll raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to go to my friend in Philadelphia. Go ahead, Lee.
Oh, Rebecca, it's heartbreaking. I just want to say how brave and wonderful they are.
They are. And you're so tender-hearted. I just love you, Lee. You know what I was thinking when I was reading these letters? It's like, wow, all my mom did was whip me a few times when I peed in the bed. And she wasn't mean. She just thought, I better train that girl's bladder by whipping her good. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Rebecca. I also just wanted to say, I mean, it's bad enough, the mother, well, apparently both of us were acting like that, but the Catholic thing on top of it is just crushing.
Yes.
Believe me, I know what that's about.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think I feel a class coming on about religious torment, should we call it? All right, thank you, Lee.
Absolutely.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay, okay, so um, and we will get to the healing. I just want to really present the different kind of things that can happen when your mother's not nurturing. Now, these are some pretty bad cases, and also every letter that I got was from someone who had been working on this. That's why I said the mother wound. Oh my God, the mother wound is the deepest wound that there is. And I was thinking about the different kinds of fear that cause. Now, some, like I think the first two that we've read, the mothers were probably having definitely some mental issues and they had had abuses themselves. And sometimes it's all about fear. And I'm going to give you the worst fear based example that I know of, and that is mothers who allow their daughters to have female circumcision or female genital mutilation. I did some research on that and I contributed to a charity called Equality Now, which is about eradicating that. But I was surprised to find that it's the mothers who are still taking their daughters to have this done. Now, why are they doing that? Because they're afraid that no man will marry their daughter if they don't have that done. And here is even more fear. Why are they afraid that no man will marry their daughter? Because in this particular culture, it's actually in several cultures, all mixed in with religion, if the woman is thought to be able to have any kind of sexual pleasure, well, she won't be a faithful wife. So why don't we just cut out her clitoris so she can't feel anything and just be nothing but a receptacle? And then she'll be a good wife, and I'm sure this really wealthy man will marry her and take care of her. She'll still be able to have children. What does it matter if she doesn't have pleasure? This is an extreme case of a mother doing something horrible because of fear. Okay, so let me read a letter from a beautiful lady I'll just call Mrs. Pretty. And she's been working on her issues, but here's what she said. I signed up for your Healing the Mother Wound class. I know I have forgiven my mother, but I know I have developed behavior patterns around how my mother treated me. So I signed up for the class to go a little deeper. I've always come across needy in all my relationships. And I know a lot of you out there are saying, Amen. And that was me, not Mrs. Pretty. And when people do not respond to me, it triggers a negative response in me that I'll always be alone and I won't have the support I need. I'm quick to give, quick to love, and I never feel that I fully get the love that I give out so freely. I'm wondering if this has something to do with my relationship with my mother as a young girl. And she goes on to say, I'm not expecting you to respond. I just wanted to share with you to get to the bottom of this so that I can develop healthier relationships. Thank you always. And I signed her Mrs. Pretty. So I want to talk a little bit about this. Of course, if you didn't get your needs met by your mother, maybe you have healed a lot of it, but that's one thing that's left to go. So there's this thing that happens to us when we get rejected by our mother, or we don't feel fully loved, or Divine Mother is telling me you don't feel approved of by your mother. You have this innate feeling deep inside of you, something must be wrong with me. My own mother doesn't approve of me, treats me badly, doesn't nurture me. Because especially little kids, they always think the world revolves around them. It's their fault. If anything is going on, it's my fault. So I know that is resonating with many of you. And by the way, I feel like I got just the right letters to get all kind of facets of this issue. So, anybody want to give a shout out to Miss Pretty? Or a word of encouragement? You can do *2 and that'll raise your hand. Okay, so let's continue. This will be the final letter, and then we will move into the healing portion. And I call this a beautiful person, highly spiritual. I call her Soulful S, because her letter was so soulful, and it's kind of long, but it's really good. And I love it because she calls me something wonderful. She calls me Rebecca, Messenger, and Speaker of Truth. You made my day, Soulful S. Thank you for all you do. I feel truly blessed to be guided to your videos and such, and I look so forward to Saturday's workshop. I have recently been looking for some sort of assistance to help to heal my chaotic patterns stemming from being raised by a mother who was herself abused, a very powerful and gifted woman who was ahead of her time. So, and I'm going to stop right there and add my own comment. Someone can grow up and be, apparently this mother was gifted. By the way, you can have psychic gifts and not have a good heart. But I'm sure the mother had a good heart, but when you carry abuse issues over, you could continue the pattern without realizing it. Her and Mrs. Soulful S is continuing. Her and her partner were guided to many communities, collective, and cults in the 70s, and eventually settled in, I'm not going to say the town, on a Seventh-day Adventist commune in the woods where I lived and learned for quite a few years until the age of 7. We grew our own food, spoke with the trees, practiced meditation and levitation, and made wonderful vegan meals for all to enjoy. Because we were the seventh day, there was an emphasis on detoxification of the body to become closer to God. And it taught me to cleanse, detox, fast, and stay connected. Something I carry with me today and use in my practice with clients with great success. Here's the thing, this woman is so wonderful, right? She's fasting, she's detoxing, probably wouldn't touch a glass of wine for nothing. Still have those roots of things that went on can affect you. She continues, but I seem to be only able to reach a certain point in my relationship with my amazing, futuristic, angelic healer husband who is my soulmate, my son, our business, our finances, and even personal relationships with others. There is a wall of distance, of disconnection, and lack of trust around everything, as well as a feeling of PTSD, freezing in situations where I should be soaring, creating chaos in moments when we should be going to the next level as a family, and so many issues around my childhood, including my mother using me to raise her children, then pitting us against each other so that I felt alone and isolated at times. I have been a seer, and this is seer, seeing, since before I could speak, and would often tell my mom of the danger we would face on our many travels across the country, and each time she would scoff at me, do the opposite, and force us to go through the pain of experiencing hardship, even though I saw the options prior to it and including the way out. It became harder and harder for me to live, and I hated her and myself and tried to end my life at least twice before I was 12. My heart is just breaking right now. Around that time, I finally ended up leaving the family after an almost tragic incident with my sister, and began my journey living with another intense family in another city while my family moved on. I love my mom, and I have so much empathy for the pain that she endured as a child and has never been able to face. And behind that, so much anger, pain, isolation, abandonment, and rage that I sometimes do not even know is still there. But I cannot continue to carry it or the memories for her, as it is destroying my chances of this beautiful marriage and raising an amazing son who can fulfill his dreams, carrying my lineage forward, and helping the many people I have signed up in this lifetime to assist in their ascension. I need help because I feel like my husband is getting tired, and he has been the one who has been able to help me to be some of what I am meant to be. But I feel like I have hit a cement block, and I need to be able to help him as much as he has helped me and so many. My blessings to you, Soulful S. So, thanks to all of you who had the courage to send in your letters. I see that I have a question coming in from Sweden. I'm unmuting your microphone. Can you hear me, my dear? Lena, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, how can I help you? Lena, did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. Thank you, dear. Nice to hear your wonderful laugh. Okay. Okay. So, we've had some examples of how this can affect us, and we're going to move into the healing phase of it. I'm going to make you a new recording just for the healing part of it. Give me a moment. Okay, so for this healing portion of the class, we're going to be doing some heart point technique, which is a healing technique from Divine Mother, which simply brings light in through the crown, through the corpus callosum, which is the big bundle of nerves connecting right and left side, bringing it down through all the acupressure points around the eyes and then into the hidden chambers of your heart. We're going to be doing some discovery. And what we're going to be asking our heart is this: what is the most pressing thing for us to heal right now? Now, I know probably every single person here came with the thought, I know what I need to heal, or came with a certain issue. But what I found is sometimes when you drop to your heart, it's a little bit different than what you thought it was, and there's a reason. Now, those of you who've been with me lately know that I've been having some information from my Arcturian friends and a healer in particular whose name is Azeron. And by the way, he does amazing private healings. But what he tells me is that when he looks at our energy field, it doesn't matter if somebody comes and says, I have cancer, can you do a healing on me? When he looks at our energy field, he sees just light patterns, energy patterns. He sees what's ready and willing to be healed. And he says, never, I'm going to use the word poo-poo. He might use some more fancy words. Actually, he doesn't speak. He gives me holographic pictures of things. Never diminish the importance of something that seems small, because it could be like the thread that you pull that unravels the whole thing. So we're going to be dropping to our heart, and then we're going to even be taking it a step further to see what's ready for healing. Now, just from the top of your head, I did ask everyone to have pen and paper. What is it that you feel is your biggest issue right now? Now, it can be that when we do the exercise, it is the same thing. But what do you feel is your biggest issue right now? Go ahead and write that down. Just jot it down. And then close your eyes and think about how strong does that issue feel for you on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 would be really strong, and 1, you wouldn't even stay here and listen to me. So go ahead and write that down and just put it to the side. Now, we're going to do heart point technique, and I'm going to guide you through it in case you've never done it, to drop down to the hidden recesses of our heart and to just see what we need to heal the most, or what's ready. What's ready? So, to do heart point technique, you simply place your hand across your eyes. You can use hands or you can just use light, and then you cradle your heart. You want to connect your head and your heart. Touch is a wonderful thing. However, if for some reason you're holding a phone or you can't do it, you can simply imagine. And to me, it's more important to touch the heart if you have to pick one. But we're going to be bringing in light, and I'm going to ask for light of divine revelation. And not thinking it's divinity even outside of yourself, but your own divinity within. And we're just pulling in light. You know, light is encoded information, and we can ask for any kind of light that we want to. So we're asking for light of divine revelation to just gather in this higher self point. It's about 12 to 18 inches above your head. It's more like a gateway. And we're just bringing in that light. And we're going to be asking a question of our deepest heart. And that question is this: what is most pressing that my heart wants to heal? And so if you would put your hands in the position, just put them across your eyes and cradle your heart. And if the hands get tired, just take them out. Once you establish the connection, you're connected. As you ask, what is most pressing that my heart wants to heal today? Just bring in that divine light flowing through your crown, through the corpus callosum, touching the pineal gland, touching the thalamus, hypothalamus, all the acupressure points around your eyes. Divine light flowing like golden honey down your throat, down into the hidden recesses of your heart as you ask yourself, what is most pressing that my heart wants to heal today? And just give yourself time. You might feel an emotion. You might feel see a little picture, anything. And I do see your hand up in Michigan. I'll answer you in just a moment. What is that for you? And don't negate anything or diminish the value of whatever it is. We're even going to take this deeper. Okay, I'm going to go to Michigan. I don't know your name, but you have your hand up. So go ahead and share your comment.
At the time I raised my hand, I was getting confused by the heart plate technique. I just decided to go with whatever came to me because I felt like it could help me regardless. But I was going to ask you, is there a YouTube video that you have that shows how to do the heart plate technique?
Yes, there is. I can send you the link to that after class, or just put in heart point technique or HPT on the YouTube channel. But the main thing is you bring in divine light through the crown. You only have one crown. Through the corpus callosum, only one of those. It doesn't matter if you know exactly where everything is. It's the intent that's so important. And then the intent to settle that light down into your innermost heart. Thank you for asking that.
No problem, thank you.
Okay. Okay. And whatever that is for you, give it an intensity rating On a scale of 1 to 10, how strong does that feel? This thing that your heart wants to heal the most. And then we're going to take it a step further. Your heart has told you. You've given it an intensity rating. Where do you feel that in your body? Think about that emotion or whatever it is, that issue. It could be a phrase, a paragraph. Where do you feel it in your body? Or is it in your energy field somewhere? Where is it? And then, when you have located it, you may have it feeling in several places of your body. But take some, I call it light-filled breaths. Just breathe in healing air, oxygen, and light. Imagine that you can do this. And imagine that you're just breathing in light right to that place within your body. We're going to do 3 of those. So I'll do it with you. Breathing in. And when you breathe in, let your belly fill up and then push the air out. This is like loosening it up and acknowledging it. Another breath. And another. Now with these breaths, you're just acknowledging, hey, I have this issue. I feel it's coming up for healing. But we're going to take this a step further, because sometimes, even to our heart, there's an issue kind of hiding that maybe we're afraid to look at. Maybe even our heart is a little afraid to look at. So how are we going to find that? Well, we're going to find it with our eyeball movements, because your eyeballs are like a compass to everything going on in your body. I love using this example. Do you ever ask a little kid, hey, Johnny, where'd you leave your jacket? He doesn't look straight at you and go, I left it in the car. Little Johnny would go, moving their eyeballs here and there, searching for the file cabinet that has the answer. So we're going to make use of our eyeball file cabinet search. So before we do that, you got the name or the feeling of that issue that was in your heart. Pretend that you can give this a form, a solid form, and play with this. Be a little kid. Give it a solid form. Make it look like a rock. Make it look like a frog. Make it look like whatever it is that you want it to look like. This is your creation. By the way, you know you created this whole scenario with your mom before you came forth. We're going to get to that one in a little bit. So, bring this solid form in front of you and place it in a circle of light. Now, you have this object that is your issue, the emotion in front of you. You've given it a form, put it in a circle of light. We need light so that we can see. And then do some fancy work with your eyeballs. Imagine that you can use your eyeballs like a cowboy at a rodeo show, like light is coming out. And the first thing you want to do is spiral your eyeballs around that object. Woo! Starting at the bottom and going up. But I want you to really move your eyeballs. Don't just pretend. Really move your eyeballs. You pretend that you're looking at it and you're really moving your eyeballs, spiraling up. This is the issue that your heart said you're ready to heal. And now pretend that your eyeballs are like lasers and they're just gently poking. Not with any bad force. They're just poking that little form that you've placed in the circle of light. Whether it's a sentence, a paragraph, an emotion, you can do this. And now, we're playing, right? We've had a lot of heavy-duty stuff so far. So you've got your form in a circle of light. You did spirals. You did little things with your laser beam. Now pretend that your eyeballs have little fingers and they're just kind of tickling this form, this issue, whatever it is. They're just tickling it until the form just falls over with laughter. Helpless with laughter. Helpless with laughter. Come on, you can do it. Play with me. By the way, until this morning, I had no idea the format of this class, and Divine Mother said, "Oh, Rebecca, I'll give it to you." And I thought this part was kind of silly, but I love silly. And guess what? Do you know that it's so much more fun to heal in joy and silliness than through all kinds of drama? I feel like you've all been through enough drama. Okay, now you got your little issue, helpless with laughter in a circle of light. We're going to do some more investigation. But before we do deeper investigation, does anyone have any kind of comment, confusion, or anything that you would like to have clarification on? Do *2, and that's going to raise your hand. Okay. So now I did ask you to have pen and paper. We're going to have a little talk with your issue. Now, to do this, we're going to be using dominant, non-dominant handwriting. Your dominant hand, doesn't matter if you're right or left-handed, the one you write with most of the time, the one you usually eat with, the one you write checks with, if anybody ever does that, sign legal documents, that's your dominant hand. The non-dominant hand is the other one. Now, the dominant hand is hardwired to your logical side. The non-dominant hand is hardwired to your creative side, to the side that has not learned how to lie. Guess how they're connected? Corpus callosum, that thick bundle of nerves connecting right and left. The logical information is on your left-hand side, and because they crisscross. The spiritual knowledge always comes into the right side of your brain. The way it crosses over to be brought into form is via the corpus callosum. every single time you write with your non-dominant hand, you're actually creating new neural pathways of communication. I studied a year and a half with Dr. Lucia Capacchione, who's written 12 books, and every single one of them has non-dominant handwriting, and the one I really recommend the most is called The Power of the Other Hand. So, we're just going to do it. And I know there's some new folks on, so I want to tell you a couple things. When you put the pen in the non-dominant hand, it's not automatic writing. A spirit's not going to come grab your hand. So if you're sitting there waiting for some ghost to come and move your hand, forget it. That's not what this is. You're going to get a word or two, and you're going to go ahead and write it down. Another thing is that you need to give yourself plenty of room. Don't try to stay within the lines. I recommend that people turn their paper. This is how you normally write. I recommend that people turn their paper this way, sideways, to write with the non-dominant hand. So another thing is that the critical voice wants to say, that's the sloppiest thing I've ever seen. Nobody's ever going to be able to read it. Nobody needs to, but you. Oh, and another thing that is a habit some folks want to do is they want to say, well, I know the answer already. I don't need to switch the pen. Switch the pen anyway. There is something magic that happens in the switching of the pen. Do it anyway. Now, before we do this exercise, does anyone have a question about non-dominant handwriting or what we're going to do? Please do *2 if you have a question. Okay, then let's continue. So, you're going to write a question with the regular hand, and then you're going to answer it with the other hand. And it could be the same. It could be the same thing you got the first time. All right. So you're going to write, you're going to address that issue. You could put dear issue or dear I hate my mother issue, dear, just probably dear issue. Dear issue, what is your purpose? And you're addressing that farm that you just eyeballed and brought into the circle of light, and they were laying on the floor laughing, but you're going to get serious now by asking this issue, what's your purpose? And when you ask that, you're going to switch the pen to answer it with the non-dominant hand. So go ahead. Write the question, dear issue, what is your purpose? And then switch the pen and let it answer. And then you're going to ask, we'll have some sharing in a few minutes, but you're going to ask this issue, are you hiding something deeper? Are you hiding something deeper? And this is to the issue. You could say, no, I'm the real deal here. And then you're going to put the pen back in your regular hand and you're going to ask, well, what is it? What are you hiding that's deeper? And of course, you answer that with the non-dominant hand. And know this, it could be the very same as the original, or it could be something different. We just want to make sure we get to the deepest thing that we need to heal today. Could I heal every single thing about your mother issues in one session? I wish. But can I pull that thread that unravels everything? With the help of Spirit, absolutely. Now, I want you to reassess the rating. In other words, if this was a new thing, take a look at that. And just imagine that you're just looking at that from all angles. And give it a rating. And just let it rest. Because this is the most urgent thing for us to heal today. Now, we've been on here over an hour. It doesn't seem like it, but let's take a couple minutes break. When we come back, we're going to have some sharing and some more non-dominant handwriting, some tapping, all kind of healing going on. And if you have some questions, jot them down for me. We will be right back.